It is girl group night, and we meet the final wild card of the season, the Seal. Group B performs once more. Let's talk about the Masked Singer. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my recap and reaction video for season 11. We are in girl group night, group B, performing again for the Masked Singer. So we have Miss Cleopatra is back, the Beats, the Gumball, and then we meet our final wild card of the season, which is the Seal. And they did this sort of in a weird order. So we've already had the Group C finals, and then last week we did the Group A finals. So now we're back with Group B, and this week and next week we will have Group B performing, and then we'll get to, I guess, the quarterfinals, and then maybe the finals after that. So there's still, a few weeks left, but we have now met all of the competitors for the season. So before we start with tonight's episode, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We do Masked Singer recaps every single week that there is a new episode. We've been doing this for years and years on the channel here, but I do much more than Masked Singer stuff. I do a lot of movie and other TV show content, so please consider subscribing, click that like button, and of course for the Masked Singer videos, it's always important to comment below your thoughts for who is under the masks. And I think I actually might know who the wild card is. I want your opinions on it, but definitely in the comments, let me know if you think I'm on the right track. The Seal is not the one going home, so we will spend another week at least with that character. I think it's the first time in a while that the wild card hasn't gone home on the first night. Usually, they perform and then that night they get booted off, largely because we kind of know the other characters a little better by then. But all right, so let's get into tonight's episode. The first person unmasked, there's only one unmasking tonight, but the first one to perform, Miss Cleopatra, is the one that eventually got unmasked at the end of the episode. So we'll start with her. But first, I'll mention again, it's girl group night. So the panelists came out and sang "Wannabe" by the Spice Girls all together. It was cute, and it made me think about how no Spice Girls actually have been on this show. I don't think. Mel B, of course, was a judge for many years on America's Got Talent, but I don't know. We've had to have had the Spice Girls performed here before, right? But I don't believe they've been on the show. But anyway, all right. So Miss Cleopatra. She says, "I love championing girl groups. I had my own group of women that helped shape me, starting with my mother, who was a maid, so I didn't have to be." And then we saw a domino with 5 little pips on it. She said, "I got my work ethic from her." And we see pictures at that point of Bette Midler and Whoopi Goldberg. She said, "All the stars look to me, including Michelle Obama and her mother." And then we see a gold, like a wedding band with a blue stone shining out. And then she sang "Free Your Mind" by En Vogue, which they have been on the show. And then for the post-song clues tonight, we had 2 people from girl groups that have been on the Masked Singer previously come on out and sing the clue. And so we rotated between Carney Wilson, who, had Wilson Phillips on the show in season 8, I believe Nick said. And then Raven Simone came out for the other 2 performers, and she was part of the Cheetah Girls back in the day, and she was on season 2. That was before I was even doing these recaps. I started this with season 3, so that was, I was watching the show then, but I wasn't doing these videos. But the clue from Carney Wilson, she sang "Stop in the Name of Love." And so Miss Cleopatra said that the Supremes are not only on my playlist, but they have been a part of my career. All right, so the guesses from the panel, we had one repeat from last time, Loretta Devine, but they all stuck with their guesses at the end of the episode for their final guess. So we'll just go straight to that. Nicole guessed Roberta Flack. Last time Group B performed, that name was not mentioned. Listen, I don't hate any of these guesses. I think only one is correct. And it's somebody that I have said from the beginning. But Roberta Flack was Nicole's guess. Not terrible. Robin said it could be Loretta Devine, who we had an Emmy clue last time Group B performed. And Loretta Devine has an Emmy for Grey's Anatomy. We've seen her in Dreamgirls on, on Broadway. So I have not seen her in Dreamgirls, but she is from Dreamgirls on Broadway. Um, Actually, you know what though? She is actually in the movie a little bit. She's in a jazz bar in the middle of the movie or something. I've seen that movie like 10 times, but so she is actually in the movie. But she, that was more of a nod to the fact that she was on Broadway with Dreamgirls. So not a bad guess there. She's been in many TV shows over the years. And then Ken said Jennifer Lewis, who I said from the start, and we'll get into that. And then Jenny was between Loretta Devine and Sheryl Lee Ralph, who was mentioned before as well when Group B performed, and eventually went with Loretta Devine. Sheryl Lee Ralph, actually, based on the voice, in addition to the clues, is probably the second best guess, even though nobody on the panel said her for their final guess. I think Sheryl Lee Ralph vocally matches up, and a lot of these clues match up. Obviously, she has an Emmy Award for Abbott Elementary, and a lot of these other clues match up pretty well as well. But Jennifer Lewis was my guess from the start. This was my first impression guess, and I am still sticking with this as we're going to do the take it off here in a moment. Obviously, she didn't say she won an Emmy. That's the interesting twist. What her clue said last time was, I've already worked my magic in an Emmy Award winning show. She does not say that she herself has an Emmy. So, people say, oh, Loretta Devine. Okay, well, Grey's Anatomy has won Emmys for sure, but Loretta Devine has an Emmy herself. Jennifer Lewis doesn't have an Emmy, but she certainly worked on Blackish, which, that has an Emmy. It only has one Emmy for like makeup or something, but still makeup and hairstyling. But still, it's an Emmy award-winning show technically. But we saw Bel Air last time. She was on The Fresh Prince of Bel Air in a recurring capacity. I don't know what the domino with the 5 pips mean. Oh, was she? I'm probably the only person that knows those little dots on dominoes are called pips. Maybe she was part of Gladys Knight and the Pips. Now that I'm sort of putting that together, was she? Maybe she toured with them or something. And then the Bette Midler Whoopi Goldberg clue. Whoopi Goldberg, she was in Sister Act with her. She sang backup for Bette Midler. Ken did mention that. I don't know what the Michelle Obama clue is, but look, I know Barack and Michelle were big fans of Blackish, so it wouldn't surprise me if, she took a tour of the White House or something during the Obama era. And then the Supremes, a part of my career, could be the actual Supremes, but Tracy Ellis Ross plays on Blackish, and that is the daughter of Diana Ross of the Supremes. So, there could be a couple of different Supremes things there. I am very, very confident that this is Jennifer Lewis. I've been saying it since Group B first performed. I'm always happy when one of my first impression guesses is correct. So let's hope that it is. Is this Jennifer Lewis? Let's see. I think it must be with that voice. Yeah, it sure is. And if you don't know her by name, you've definitely seen her. She's done 100 shows and movies. Like I said, she was in Sister Act. She was Dre's mother on Blackish. And Ken Jeong was right. That doesn't happen often. But that was, to me, that voice, unmistakable. Unmistakable with the voice.
Pleasure to be in your presence.
Thank you, baby.
I mean, you've graced Broadway stages. You've starred in films, television. Why?
Yeah, she's done so many things.
Listen, guys, I took a long break. And when they called, I said, I haven't been on stage singing for a long time. So I said, come on.
Yeah, she really turned into the acting for a while. She said, haven't been on stage for a while singing. That makes sense because, right, she was on Blackish for, what did that run, 10 years? And they actually had talked about a spinoff for her character as well. Her and the Lawrence Fishburne character, Dre's parents, who were divorced through most of Blackish, ended up hooking up in like season 7 or 8 or something, and then got together. And I forget if they got remarried, but they were talking about doing a spinoff for them because we had Grownish with the Zoe character in high school or in college, and then we had Mixedish, which is a prequel with the Tracy Ellis Ross character growing up, and then this was going to be Oldish, I think. But then ABC did not care for it. So, but Anthony Anderson was on this show. Was that just last season? I think it was. So, now the Blackish is off the air. I guess all of the cast is coming out. Listen, Tracy Ellis Ross certainly can sing, and we've seen that. Like I said, her mother Diana Ross too. But so maybe she will be on in a future season. We don't know. All right, so let's move on here. That was the only unmasking. So we can talk about the rest of the show here. Next up was The Beats, they said, we both bring our own spice, like some great girl groups. I was the total ladies man, and the other one was the tough guy. We couldn't be any different, but we didn't try to outdo each other. Instead, we teamed up. And we see a boarding pass that says Destination Anywhere. We also see a restaurant menu at that point. It says Beats Restaurant. Our friendship made us a delicious duo, and we're still touring. We see Christmas lights, like a string of lights, and then we also see what I couldn't tell what it was. I'm glad Robin said it. A castle made of bread with like pretzels in the pillars. It was very odd. I don't quite know what to make of that. And they sang "I'm So Excited" by the Pointer Sisters, and Raven Simone came out and sang "Weak" by SWV, and the whole audience sang along with her. And the Beat said, "We made our own audience weak on Broadway." So the clues or the guesses from the panel, these are all different, by the way, from last time. Last time Group B performed, the guesses were Jason Bateman and Will Arnett, Casey and JoJo, and Steve Martin and Martin Short. Really all over the map. I think we've narrowed it down a little bit this time with these. Brooks and Dunn. Robin was hearing some kind of country flavor. I don't see that at all, but he said Brooks and Dunn. And then the other two, I think, are a little bit closer to where we're going. Jenny said it could be two of the co-stars of Schmigadoon on Apple Plus, Titus Burgess and Alan Cumming. Okay, I don't hate that. I loved, I almost said Nicole. I loved Rita's guess. I don't think it's correct, but she said Zach Braff and Donald Faison. I think that is a great guess. I don't think it's correct, but I think that's really, really close. And we know those guys can sing. We know those guys love each other. Of course, they started many years ago on Scrubs, and I think that was where they first met. I could be wrong. But they formed, this amazing friendship. They've gone on to do so many projects together. Currently they're on a T-Mobile commercial that I actually really enjoy watching because they're singing in it, and it's very fun. So it could be them, but I'm sticking with my original guess, which is Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard. They were on American Idol season 2. They were the top 2 on that show. Ruben Studdard ended up victorious, but I think it's throwing us off a little bit when the one says I was the total ladies man. Look, women love Clay Aiken. Before he came out and since. So that is a little bit of a throw off of a clue, I think, because obviously, now we know Clay Aiken is gay and proud of it and all of this, and he has a husband and all of that. But look, to say, I was a total ladies man, that makes sense. Women were throwing themselves at Clay Aiken. So, that tracks. I don't know if they both put out a Christmas album or if they have one together. I know Ruben has a Christmas album, and I know Clay has one separately. Have they done one together? I'm not sure. But so that could be the Christmas lights thing. I don't understand what the bread castle is, other than Ruben is a heavy guy. I mean, I know he's lost weight, but I don't know. Is that something with it? And then the Destination Anywhere boarding pass. They've toured, all over the world with American Idol, and their own stuff. And then all the clues from last season. Although, again, the clue last time, it was Wizard of Oz night when they performed before it. It was Toto was the clue, and he says, like Toto and Dorothy, we've been best friends and pretty good co-stars, too. So that, again, could lead maybe to the Scrubs thing, but I'm going to stick to my guns on this one. I believe this is Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard. All right, so next up was the Gumball. He says, one girl has been singing lead in my life for years. My wife. Everything was perfect with us until she was diagnosed with a disease that will appear later in life or impact her later in life. He said our forever suddenly looked different. We see a crescent moon at that point. We also see a globe that may or may not be a bowling ball. I didn't pick up on the fact that it was maybe a bowling ball, but Jenny said that it was. We chose to say yes more. And explore the wide open spaces. And that's the song he sings, Wide Open Spaces by the Chicks. And Carney came out and sang Don't Ya for everybody. Of course, a nice tribute to Nicole Scherzinger, who is absent this season as she's doing a play in London. And the Gumball says, don't you wish, like me, you could have acted with Channing Tatum? All right, so the guesses from the panel, all different again from last time. Last time we said Chase Crawford. Kevin Jonas or Jamie Dornan. I forget who I said last time, but I don't think it was any of those people. But he says, or this time it could be Aaron Taylor Johnson, Derek Hoff, or Taran Killam. And Ken actually points out Taran Killam's wife was diagnosed with cancer. So I don't think it's a cancer diagnosis. And here's why: because he says she was diagnosed with a disease that would impact her later in life. Cancer's, pretty immediate, folks. So I don't quite think whatever this is, it's cancer related. That's just my gut on that by the phrasing. But anyway, you guys last time had said to me in the comments that this is quite possibly Scott Porter, who was on Friday Night Lights, but more specifically to the clue package, there was a big heart on a map of the American South. So it was a heart around like Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And so you guys in the comments pointed out, well, that could be for Scott Porter's show, Heart of Dixie. Don't watch the show. I've heard of it. I couldn't have told you who was in it, but apparently he's in it. And I only really know him from Friday Night Lights. I mean, I've seen him do a couple of things along the way, but he played Jason Street in the first few seasons of that, and I think he recurred maybe later on as well. But anyway, so that's kind of where I know him from. So some of these other clues. Oh, I think maybe I said Gavin DeGraw last time because of the chariot. There was a chariot clue. Now that I'm looking at my clues, I think I said Gavin DeGraw. But look, I'm willing to go with you guys on Scott Porter for this reason. I still don't know really enough about him, but he was in 2 Channing Tatum movies. He was in 10 Years, which was, I don't know if that was direct to Netflix or not, but that was like a really huge cast, and Channing Tatum was one of the stars. Scott Porter was very, very minor in there, but he was in it, so there was that. But more importantly is Dear John, which was starring Channing Tatum and Amanda Seyfried. I can't remember if that was a Nicholas Sparks movie or not, or if it just had that feeling to it. But Scott Porter was like one of the top co-stars in that movie. So I think that's probably more where we're going. But he's acted with Channing a couple of times. So I'm willing to go with you guys on that. Scott Porter, sure. Sounds good for the gumball. All right, so finally we have the wild card in The Seal. There is a movie trailer motif for this, so we're thinking maybe a movie star. He said, just like a seal, I'm cute, cuddly, and friendly. There was a science experiment kind of thing going on then. He says, I was mistakenly perceived as a wild child. And there was a driver's license there. He said, you know me from your screens, radio, and your posters tacked up on your walls. We see a vampire at that point. And he says, I was in one of the most famous groups in the world. And look, I had a guess on this before the singing started, just from the clue package. Okay, and I think I'm right, but we'll see here. He sings Hold On by Wilson Phillips in a more rocked up version. And then Raven comes out and sings Boss by Fifth Harmony. Not familiar with that song, but he says, it's easy to be confident when you have a boss like Steven Spielberg. All right, so the guesses from the panel. Haley Joel Osment came from Ken's Mouth, who starred in AI for Spielberg. And then we went with a few Goonies members. Jenny McCarthy said it could be Corey Feldman, and then Robin thought it could be Sean Astin. So a couple of Goonies there. Look, that was directed by Richard Donner. So it was not directed by Steven Spielberg. But you know what? This is not just a beautiful thing. This is a working wall here. I think I have the Goonies on DVD somewhere down here. I know I have an expanded package of the Goonies. Okay. I think I only have like this big box set of the Goonies. That's upstairs. But all right. Anyway, I was going to look. But Richard Donner directed the Goonies. So maybe Spielberg produced it under Amblin. I don't know why we're talking about the Goonies. But the person I think it is was in the Goonies. So, okay, that makes sense to me. All right. I think one of these guesses is correct from the panel. I think it's Corey Feldman. And here's why. There's so many reasons. First of all, the driver's license, that's for a very cult hit movie, License to Drive. That was very big when I was a kid. I believe it was in 1988. And, so I was like 11. I actually have never seen License. Well, no, maybe I did. Maybe I saw part of it on like Showtime or something. But I didn't go to the theater to see it, but I wanted to. It was one of those movies where it's like, oh, if you're cool, you go see this movie. But then the vampire teeth for Lost Boys, automatically I was like, okay, this is I think this is Corey Feldman because Corey Feldman loves to fancy himself as a good singer. He is a terrible singer. However, it's more his ego. He's actually an okay singer, but he thinks he's, better than he is. For example, when he says, you know me from your screens, radio, and your posters hung up on the wall. Screens, sure. Posters on the wall, absolutely. A lot of people have that Goonies poster or the Lost Boys poster. The radio, no. Other than Corey Feldman going to visit a radio station and playing his songs, because I've heard that before. I mentioned this show I think last week, but Preston and Steve out of Philly. I'm a Philly guy, so I podcast their show every day, and they've had him on actually perform it. Or did they have him perform, or did they just play the record? I think maybe they just played it. But anyway, okay, so that was the only time you would ever hear Corey Feldman out of a radio, if he was actually the guest on a show. But he thinks in his brain he is like this top level, singer, and it's not true. However, I will say, under the mask, and maybe not knowing that it's Corey Feldman, he did okay. I still knew he was going to move forward over Miss Cleopatra. I just think people gravitate towards, fun characters, and he was like dancing around on the stage and being kind of funny and whatever. So, okay. But look, Corey Feldman, he's a great actor. He's done a lot of really great movies from my childhood, certainly. And later in life, he did, the reality show circuit and all of that. And now he's focused way more on his music than he should be. He should be doing more acting jobs, but okay. But I believe this is Corey Feldman. I mean, all the clues match up. The voice matches up. And I will say, we did get to hear Seal sing again because Seal and Miss Cleopatra were in the Battle Royale. So they both sang Waterfalls by TLC. And of course, his version was like a more rocked up kind of version. And that's sort of his style. The style went out probably 25 years ago, really. It's like like a Billy Idol kind of a style of doing stuff. It's like, because it's not necessarily like hair metal. It's not really grunge. It's somewhere kind of in between there. So Billy Idol, I think, is a good comparison, even though he's a much better singer and performer. But yeah, I think the Seal is Corey Feldman. I think my first impression guess is probably right on this one. But we will see. Next week will be the Group B finals, and at least two or well, three left, I guess. So at least one will be going home. But I have heard rumor from you guys in the comments, one person specifically that said they believe Rita is ringing the bell again next week. So there may be two acts saved, which I think makes sense. I think the Beats and the Gumball both deserve to be in the finals, or at least the quarterfinals, or whatever they're doing. So we'll see what happens next week. But comment below, like I said, with your thoughts on this group, and specifically the Seal, just because we have not heard from him before. But am I on the right track here with Corey Feldman? What do you think? Let me know. All right, thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time. Bye.